Well, we're back, everyone. I deleted the first video though. We are
Can't stop
back.
us.
You can't stop the show. The show must go on no
The
matter
show
what.
must go on.
And let us tell you what is happening. So, our original guests have had some last minute emergencies and couldn't make it. And so, with the spirit and willingness for people, we have guests, and Destiny is going to expand on that some more.
Yes, thank you, Lee. First of all, it's good to see you, Lee.
It's good to see you
And
too.
I'm just glad how we at Just Talk Live are so spirit led, and that how God always provides. And we wanted to do something special. That's why we came up with this Womanist theologian episode. And although we do have women in ministry on the line, they might not be really versed of womanist theology. However, being a Black woman and being in ministry makes them experts. So we just wanted to say that it's not the two people who you expected or the promo, but we do have two great women in ministry. But just if you were wondering, what is womanist theology? So, womanist theology is a religious conceptual framework which considers and revises the traditions, practice, scriptures, and biblical interpretation with a special lens to empower and liberate Black/African American women in America. So that is womanist theology. And one of the great women theologians in the Presbyterian realm is Reverend Dr. Katie Geneva Cannon, the late Reverend Doctor. So we want to honor her at this time. But stay tuned. Maybe we can do another Womanist episode in the near future. But we really wanted to lift up and center Black women voices today. So that's why we are so grateful to have our two guests with us. And I think, Lee, it's time to bring on our guest.
Time to bring them on. So we welcome our guest. We're so happy you are here. And we're just going to ask you to introduce yourself. And we'll start with Anisha.
Okay, good evening. I'm Anisha Hackney. I'm a part of national staff, so I work within the administrative services group, which is a part of A corporations, and I manage HR functions as well. I work very closely. I accompany several leadership cabinet members in the Presbyterian Mission Agency in day-to-day support of their HR needs. As well, I work with a number of managers in administrative services group, and also from time to time may also work with managers and leaders in Office of the General Assembly, all three of which make up the A Corporation.
And I'm Lynne Foreman. I am a mission engagement advisor with the Presbyterian Mission Agency. I have been in my role now for about 7 years. Mission engagement and support is a very important role within the PMA because we are the connector to the national church for mid-councils. And for the most part, the work includes really right now sharing the vision of Matthew 25 and inviting all of the mid-councils, the congregations, presbyteries, all levels to become Matthew 25 churches, Matthew 25 presbyteries, synods, and just living out the vision. The work is amazing because I get to collaborate with many different ministry areas within the mission agency. That's Compassion, Peace, and Justice. That's World Mission. That's every area that you could possibly imagine. So that's what I do.
Thank you, Lynn and Anisha. And I will say, by these two ladies being two women who inspire me or my mentors, they were very modest in their introductions. But hopefully some other realms of expertise will come out as we are going through this episode. But thank you for being here again. We immediately thought of you two because you are great women in ministry. Not only great women, but great Black woman. So thank you again for being here. So the first question that I want to pose to you two is, what does being Black mean to you, especially in the context of ministry?
Your turn, Lynn. I started.
A Black woman, sorry.
Whew. So, being Black in the context of ministry. Upon my arrival at the mission agency, I will say I came in very excited, rearing to go. I had just experienced an epiphany moment where I felt called to do the work of God 24/7, 365. Prior to my work at the national level with the National Presbyterian Church, I worked in corporate America. I had achieved many great accolades working as a vice president, working also as a senior director, just really moving and shaking on the corporate realm. But it was that one day where I had that moment where I felt empty in feeling that all of this great work, making really great money and not feeling fulfilled. And it was because of that moment and that call that I then decided that I would pursue the work of ministry and working for the greater good of what God represented in the earth. And it was because of that I ended up at the PMA and called to work with what was then funds development. Now, being a woman of color, working in ministry has had different facets and different phases. Really, to be quite frank with you, the experience of working in ministry at a local level within my local congregation was very different than working at a national level. On a local level, I found myself having the impact of the younger generation, young adults who were disenchanted with church, disenchanted with their spirituality, really wondering who they are and where they fit in this bigger picture where God is concerned. And it was the young Black girls mainly that I ministered to, forming various youth groups, youth organizations within local congregational work, having an impact there. And then pivoting on the national level, having the ability to, through my work with mission engagement, meet so many great people of color that saw someone like me that worked at the national level and said, wow, if you could do it, I could do it too. Or I didn't know that someone like you worked at the national church. Or I see the national church through a different lens. I've gone to places like Endicott, New York, or Syracuse, New York, where there may have been one or two African American girls sitting in the congregation at the time that I'm there presenting or doing a mission engagement workshop, and afterwards would come up and say, I can't believe that you're here. So it's moments like that that remind me of the importance of someone like me just being seen and having the visibility to have an impact on the broader level.
Wow. Listening to Lynn, we have a lot of similarities in our background. And maybe this is why I didn't frame it this way, Destiny, when you asked us to introduce ourselves. So this is going on my 32nd year. At the end of May, I will hit my 32nd anniversary in HR, believe it or not. Started in HR when I was a teenager, part-time after school job. And I was recommended for the position by one of my mentors in the church. And at the time when she talked to me and my mother about the position, she kept saying, I see Anisha down the road making a huge impact. I'm a teenager at that point. I didn't have a clue. I'm still wet behind the ears. I didn't know, what she was referring to that. But over the years, as I have grown in my career, I've held domestic leadership positions, global leadership positions. I've had, various titles like Lynne. I've had vice president behind my name, senior director, senior regional director. I have made an impact in various ways. And I always find myself going back to those moments when I was much younger and coming up in ministry. And it never dawned on me, probably until about 10 years ago, that there was a group of 5, maybe 7 women max who really shaped me and helped form who I am now as an HR professional. They weren't focused on human resources. They weren't thinking anything about human resources. Even when Sister Marcia talked to us about the position that I accepted when I was on the verge of turning 16, she wasn't thinking about HR. She just kept saying, I see Anisha making a huge impact, and I don't know what it is about this position, but every time I think about this opportunity, I see Anisha's face. And so I've gone full circle now, similar to Lynne. And I woke up one morning and said, wow, Lord, what would it be like to take my professional life, combine my HR work with my ministry life? I've also served as a pastor. I've served as an executive pastor as well as a senior pastor. And so what would it be like to bring the two together? And 2 days later, after I sent an email out to my personal network of friends and colleagues, I got a call about PCUSA. But since I have been at PCUSA, God continues to take me back to moments of my childhood when I was raised and when I was coming up and when I was going through that formation, first from being a young Black girl into becoming a young Black woman. And there are, again, 5, 6, 7 women that I think of often who really helped shape this woman now that you are speaking with. And so it's very important being in ministry because you don't know how you are always being used, but it's important to know that you are being used, right? It's important to know that there is something that is inside of you that is meant to be life-giving to someone else. And if those women who helped shape me had not taken that seriously, I may not be here today. I may not have the experiences and the stories that I have to share. Even with just my own children, I may not have those if it wasn't for those women who helped groom and shape me into becoming the woman that I am in ministry today.
Anisha, I'm so glad you took the time to reintroduce yourself because I'm like this. You can't stop there, but thank you. I'll pass it over to you, Lee.
Yeah, and I know that you two have really impacted, I mean, me and my early career in this church. Your partnership and y'all's support of what we do here has been really meaningful for me. And I'm so grateful to know you. And just to come on at last minute and do this with us is just a testament to the support that you two have given us. But I do wonder, and kind of thinking about, what y'all were saying earlier, that the importance of the church seeing Black women within the church and what also within leadership of the church, and how that visibility is so much needed. And I wonder if we were to really empower young Black girls in this church, like how different would our church be, and how different would ministry be?
Wow.
So I wonder what y'all think about that. I know I threw that's a curveball, but Yeah, just thinking about it.
That's a good
Lee loves
curveball.
them curveballs from the other week. As we know, inside joke, Lee love the curveballs.
That's a very good curveball. And I think I can speak to that pretty well because I believe that I'm here only because I was a young Black girl empowered in the Presbyterian Church at a very young age. Being a fourth generation Presbyterian, lifelong Presbyterian, being involved in really at times, I joke about it and I say under duress, being forced to be, youth, not minister, but youth council president, youth group president, just going through the ranks of all of those very important roles. I realize now how important they were. I realized that there were women that instilled in me so many great things that I had no clue would impact my life later. It was women like, Reverend Dr. Arlene Gordon, women like Reverend Dr. Melva Costin, a lot of really great women who are, they're my sheroes. I love those women and absolutely adore them because they showed me that I had a place in this church. And they supported me at times when I was disenchanted with being in a church that did not look like me. And so it is because of them and so many others, I can't even begin to name the countless others, that it is important. I can speak to that it is important to have the support and the mentors in place to really usher you along and show you what is possible.
Yeah, I would echo what Lynne has said because our strength really comes from the church. I learned how to be an orator in the church. I learned how to network in the church. I learned how to present myself professionally in the church. I learned how to deal with conflict in the church. I learned how to overcome sexism in the church. And the list could go on. There are so many things that the church has been in my life that I try to pass down to my children, particularly my two daughters, because it is hard in this world for a Black woman. We are not respected in this world. We often walk through this world more so invisible or as a shadow, right? So in the church was the place where we could thrive. The church was the place where we were affirmed. The church was the place where we learned not only am I somebody, but I'm connected to a family of people who are somebodies, right? The church was the place that said, I don't care what's happened to you. You can get up, dust your shoes off, and keep going. So the church has been all of those things and then some in my life. And it's important for us to continue to utilize the church to be that depth of community to one another. It may not be the same traditions. It may not be the same type of services. It may not be the same type of ministries that it was for me coming up as a child. I don't expect my daughters, even my son, to do the exact same things, but I do look to the church to provide that depth of community to them. And it really has been my strength. Every aspect of my life, I can carry back to the church.
Amen. Can y'all tell that Anisha is a preacher? I know she in HR right now, but I still think that calling is to be a prophetic voice, but that's just me, y'all.
I am on sabbatical. I keep telling y'all.
But Lynne and Anisha both bring up important aspects of what it is to be a womanist. And as you were naming, we are the most unprotected class, Black women. And even if we are looking at minorities, white women have a more centralized voice than us. And when we're looking at Black people 9 times out of 10 is focused on Black men. So the concept of this womanist theology is to bring forth those voices of Black women. And as you two so beautifully stated, that's why our voices are needed at the forefront of the table. I know every step of the way of my call story. It began with a Black woman, but my mom instilling to me the power of what it means to be a Black Christian and being in service. Kind of like what you were saying, Anisha, if it wasn't for the Black church, my Black Presbyterian roots, I would have never ran for office. I wouldn't be here. And, one of the Black women who had me thinking about my calls on the line, Lynne. Lynne is the reason why I sometimes thank God for happiness, joy, sorrow, that I am in Louisville, Kentucky. I put it all on Lynne, and both of you have helped me sustain along the journey. So as you lifted, it is very important for Black women to not only be involved, but be in the center for their voices to be lifted up and for community built. And I know you both touched upon it, but I just kind of want that one story right now. What was that one story or that one moment that inspired you that you would only have had due to being a Black woman in ministry? And I'll give you a little time to think about it. Not just any old inspirational story, but because you're a Black woman, you had this profound experience.
So I wasn't raised Presbyterian. I came up in the Baptist faith, and I was very active in my local congregation, but also in my district, as well as in the state and national convention. And we had a young people's convention every year, the week between Christmas and New Year's. So it was the thing. You couldn't tell us anything. We were on the road going to Fresno, California, the day after Christmas. Most of the church buses were pulling off at like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. in the morning. So we could be in Fresno by 9. And this one particular year, I heard this woman named Alferma Crawford, and she was hosting a plenary, and she ended up preaching. She preached The Woman at the Well. And I had never heard it preached that way before. And at the conclusion of her session, she challenged all of us to be the woman that we always look to others to be. And there was something just in how she framed the question and how she closed the sermon. When she challenged us with that question, it hit me in such a way that I literally ran home the way that Christ says to the woman, don't tell anyone. I ran home and told everybody about Alferma's sermon and how she challenged us to be the woman that we always look to others to be. You can be that woman right now. That's who you are. It's in you. You come from lineage, you come from legacy, you come from history, you come from congregations, you come from families. To be that woman that you're always checking the box for somebody else to be. I was 18 years old, and that moment changed my life.
Wow, that's great. Wow, I have so many, and I'm just really pondering which one stands out. And I will say, the one in particular that really speaks to me today is one with a young lady who is Presbyterian. I believe that Brianna is probably 17 years old right now, but really, she was someone I met during a time when I was conducting a mission engagement workshop at a church in upstate New York. And it was a very upstate New York area. And I was traveling with Reverend Jimmy Hawkins, who was doing tremendous work there. And he was riveting. He did an amazing job. And Brianna afterwards came up to both of us. She was so happy to see people of color in her congregation for this special event. And at that moment, I did not realize, I had not a clue that she was truly appreciative of the presence that we both brought at that time. We left the event, of course, and she and I decided we would continue to keep in touch. And our relationship grew. She allowed me to continue to mentor her. She asked if I would be a mentor. She expressed on numerous occasions that there were no Black women in the area in which she lived, not any. And that she really was inspired by the fact that I was also a Black Presbyterian and a young, which I still did not get that part, but a young, younger than what she had been accustomed to, I guess, Black Presbyterian that she could associate and connect with. And so from that relationship, we continued to keep in touch. She and I have conversations about college, about what schools she may attend or may not attend. She is now a senior. That was about 2 years ago when we met. We agreed that I would accompany her to some of her college visits. So she's become family. And I have had several light bulb moments from that experience to remind me of the importance of my presence and me showing up. Just knowing that I had an impact. Brianna will now possibly be going away to college out of state. At one point, she wanted to remain, in the area where she lived. I'm beginning to mentor her in ways in which she should expand and grow and maybe connect with other Black women of color. And so her network is expanding. And so it's instances like that that have changed my way of thinking from this is just another opportunity to present and speak to many, from that to I really do have an impact, because you never know who is in the audience. You never know who your audience is. You never know who needs you. And so that is one that I can say stands out for me.
Awesome. Well, thank y'all for sharing all of this with us. And I think that I would love to hear any final thoughts. We're not going to keep it, since you were so gracious to be here. I think it would be way too much for us to keep you here for like an hour. So we are going to give y'all some time for final thoughts, maybe some inspiring words for us as we continue into ministry. So yeah, any final thoughts for our audience out there?
Sure. My final thoughts would be thank you, first of all, for the work that you're doing with Just Talk Live. It is so important that voices of color are heard, and just voices that aren't normally heard are heard. And the work that you're doing is not just life-changing work, but it's impactful work. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to say thank you to both of you for the work that you're doing. My final thoughts would be for leaders, be it pastors, be it elders like myself, whoever you are, Black woman in the church, remember that you matter. Remember that you're important. Remember that you do have an impact. And it's so important to be seen and to show up and represent the denomination, represent women, and have a voice. Your voice does matter. And at times, our voices are silenced, but never, ever give up. Continue the fight.
And I want to thank the two of you as well. I am a huge supporter of your ministry and your work. I think both of you not only bring your head to your work, but your heart into this space, and it shows. So thank you. You are trailblazers. Just Talk Live has been amazing, just to see how it's grown in such a short period of time. And I know there's a bright future. You know, I hear people say that oftentimes, and it sounds so cliche, but I think with what the two of you are doing in this particular time of the church, while we are in a time of reformation, I think this is such important work that the two of you are doing. So thank you, to echo Lynne. And I want to speak to the Black women as well. And say, you know, my sister, we are each other's strength. We are each other's love. We are each other's guideposts. We can be a light to one another. We are so misunderstood as Black women. We are multifaceted, and this world does not have a clue of just how powerful we are. But if we come together, that's all that we need. We need one another to continue to go on. We need one another to lift each other up. We need one another to move this world forward in the way that God has called, shaped, formed, created, and fashioned us to exist. We are unique. I'm proud to be a Black woman. I will never apologize for being a Black woman. I'm proud to come from a Black woman. My mother is my shero. There is no Black woman on this earth that I believe is greater than my mom, because that is who God allowed me to come through, right? So there is something about that woman that makes me who I am. And it's important for us to recognize we are connected to one another through that way, through our history, through our family, through our community, through our neighborhoods, through our society. And so knowing that we are connected, we need to be each other's strength. We need to be each other's guideposts. We need to be each other's protectors. And at times, even be each other's providers. We need to come alongside one another and help each other so that as I move forward, we all move forward, whoever else is connected to me. And so Black women, I just celebrate you. Lee, Destiny, thank you so much. Destiny, you are such a powerful Black woman. Lynne, you are such a powerful Black woman. And the list goes on. So thank you.
And thank y'all.
Yes, thank you so much. And I will say we do have one comment in the chat on Facebook, and I'm going to read it because I think it's a compliment to you too, and also to Lee and I indirectly. Thank you for this program tonight and presenting two beautiful women. So
Well, thank you.
And I'm pretty sure they meant that physically and through your wonderful spirit that is pouring over these virtual spaces.
Well,
yes,
thank
indeed. Yeah, and the first time, so I met Anisha in my interview to be here, and I don't know if I would be here if it wasn't for her. So I am very grateful for both of you, and very grateful for now. You never know how the Spirit's going to work. You never know how the Spirit's going to move, and this was meant to happen tonight. And no matter how it happened, for you two to be here, that's definitely the work of the Spirit tonight. So we are very grateful, and we give thanks to that, and thanks to God for both of you being able to be here for us. So yeah, audience out there, next week, make sure you watch us next week. We're going to be talking about women in the Bible, and I think Destiny, you know who the guests are going to be.
Yes. Thank you, Lee. So next week we have, like Lee said, a great lineup for you. We have a Louisville Presbyterian Theological Seminary professor, Justin Reed, will be joining us. And his background is in Hebrew Torah context. And also we have a Louisville favorite and native, I believe she's a native, Reverend the known Dr. Angela Johnson will be joining us talking about women in the Bible. So we are excited to have those two coming on next week. I did change real quick. I wanted to shout out my shirt, Black by Popular Demand, since we are celebrating Black History Month and it's our final Black History Month episode. And back to you, Lee.
Awesome. Well, yeah, check that out next week. And all of the March schedule will be coming out soon, so keep an eye out on that. And yeah, we will catch you next week at 6 o'clock this time. We promise. So catch us next week.